as well as like I think this approach of like the vast majority of laws that are passed are do not have sunset clauses. I'm a huge fan of sunset clauses. I believe that if a law that laws need to be intentionally re-upped. So if they're found not to be working after a few years, then if we decide that it's working, we want to keep it up, then cool, we'll pass it again. But if not, it will just automatically disappear on its own. I think that that's also a really powerful thing because that's how we get stuck with like these blue laws and or whatever the hell they're called. That's how we get stuck with unjust laws that don't make sense in the modern age.
Well, you mentioned sunset clauses, right?
Yeah.
So, how long would you make an estimate for the duration of a sunset clause? Like 3 years, 4 years before results could be shown and say, "Oh, remove it."
I mean, yeah, that's going to depend on the legislation itself. That's a good question, though. It's like it's good to have guidelines or defaults. I mean, you know, also depends like at what level it's happening. I think at the level of the federal government, it is reasonable to have longer periods of time because that kind of legislation tends to take a lot more work to get it through. It goes through a lot more consideration. They're very large bodies, big committees that consider. Not that I think Congress makes great decisions all the time, but yeah, I think 10-year sunset clauses do make sense at the federal level, especially because implementation tends to take time for big stuff. But again, it doesn't have to be the same on every law. But I think maybe more local stuff, it would make more sense to have smaller time periods as more of a default because localities tend to be more nimble, right? You have a city council of maybe 9 people and one mayor, and that's it. That's all you got to go through to get a law passed. And so it's like, all right, well, if something needs to get changed, it can happen much more quickly. So yeah, that's kind of my generic response.